If you play Ultimate Frisbee, there's a good chance you have misunderstood this concept. Using pain as a guide to determine when we can train or play with intensity. So if you have pain, that does not necessarily mean there is significant damage and that you cannot play or cannot train with intensity or focus. If you have no pain, that doesn't necessarily mean you are fully healthy or ready to play or train with intensity. This is very important. I'm going to give you two specific examples using myself. First, the no pain thing. When I was 19, I laid out, I subluxed my shoulder, went out and in, super fun, and I could not move it more than like 2 inches away from my body. So I went to the orthopedist, they gave me a cortisone shot. Super fun, we'll just shoot you up with that. And you know what happened? An hour later, I had zero pain and a full range of motion. So being 19, I figured, cool, I'm all better now. I'm gonna go play in my summer league game, which I did, and I laid out, played hard. It was dumb, okay? Perfect example of having no pain does not necessarily mean everything is better. I had enough damage and inflammation in my shoulder that I could not move it, and yet hours later, I am playing a full intensity game and laying out. Super dumb. So pain is not necessarily a perfect guide for when we should or should not play. Opposite example here, this past weekend I was at Masters Regionals and I had some Achilles soreness in warm-ups. It felt a little irritated. I had been doing all kinds of mobility work, strengthening work, isometrics leading up to the weekend and for the past many, many months. So I know that I have a good baseline of strength and resilience in my Achilles. I have a good sense of what the pain means for me. When it popped up, I was a little worried, wasn't sure I'd be able to play, but as I continued the warm-ups, continued moving, and got into the game, I monitored how it felt, how it looked, how everything was responding, and it gradually got better the more I played. The next day, it was even better. By the end of the weekend, it was better than it was at the beginning of the weekend. Sometimes tendons and other areas of the body respond really well to high, consistent loads. In this case, that's exactly what happened. So I'm not saying you should push through pain, but this is just a clear example of how if I had just totally avoided it because I had pain, it may have actually gotten worse instead of better. So rather than being afraid of the pain, I was curious and I experimented and I monitored. And crucially, I've been doing active training to build resilience, build confidence, and better understanding of my body. Same thing with the shoulder. Since I was 19, now I do a much better job of understanding what is going on with my shoulder and the rest of my body so that I can better determine if I'm ready regardless of pain. So we want to have certain types of training. Mobility training works really well for this so that we can regularly assess and train and reassess our body and our mobility to give us a more full picture of what's going on so that we're not just using pain as our only measure of progress or readiness. It can be very frustrating and it can be very misleading as well. So if you encounter pain, try your best not to catastrophize and think the worst. I know it's hard, but just try. Think about what active stuff you can do to help improve your health, promote blood flow and healing despite the pain. You want to be safe and conservative initially. And if you do not have pain, but you've been previously injured, think about returning to play and intensity conservatively. Because if it's just been a few days or even a week or two after a significant injury, that's typically not enough time for your body to adapt enough to be ready for the same intensity at which it was injured. Okay? You're here, you get injured, now you're down here. You give it a few days or a week, you're probably not even back to that point where you first got injured, which means the most likely thing to happen is that you have a re-injury.